Welcome back to the Carolina Flare Insider. It's May of 2019 and we have a lot going on here at Jarrett Bay. We've got the service yard is busy, it's spring rush. We have a lot of boats in construction. We're gonna take a peek, but the big news is that hole 60, the 84 footer has been sold and it is back in action full speed. So we're down forward in hole 60 and we're taking a look at the trim work, and primarily the goal is to look at the craftsmanship involved in making the trim work, because nothing about this is standard run-of-the-mill. So one of the things that's difficult to recognize is that each of these pieces is uniquely made by a craftsman, and it all keys together like it's a cool puzzle, because really that's what it is. And they require a high level of craftsmanship. And there's a lot of this in the boat. There's a lot of this in every boat. We have a lot of very talented craftsmen here at Jarrett Bay Boat Works, and that's something we can be very proud of. So let's go take a look in new construction and see what else is going on over there. Here in new construction, you can see and you can hear that we have an awful lot going on. We have 3 boats under construction in this building besides the one we just looked at over in building 8. So in the far background here, we have hole 67. Over here we have hole 66. And around the corner we have hole 64. Those are all in full production. But let's go take a look at them individually and see what's going on. Here on hole 67, we've got a lot of really nasty, dirty work going on inside. We're not gonna go inside and get sticky, but we get a little bit of peek of what's going on here. On the bench, we have an exhaust trunk top. So the underside of this trunk gets fiberglassed, and we use a specialty fire retardant resin. The other one over here has been done yesterday, and then these will get glued into place on the exhaust trunk that's already built. But as I say, everything's kind of sticky in there, so we're not gonna go climb into that boat today. Well, let's go take a look at hole 66. So here in the engine room of hole 66, we have some engine beds being mounted in. We build these aluminum bed frames into the stringers. Now the stringers are made extremely strong, and then the aluminum is so that we can bolt down the engine mounts into. So we drill and tap those after the fact. But right now what's happening is the beds get glued into place. We fill in the lumber around it. The craftsman picks up a planer, planes off all the wood to make it level. You can see all the chips here. That's one of my favorite tools in the world. After that's all said and done, the edges get routed over, and this gets glassed very heavily. Obviously, the torque and the stresses of the engines deliver all that thrust into the hull through this stringer system, so it's got to be very, very strong and durable. So you've got a true insider view of what goes on in the structure of the engine beds. Let's go take a look at the bumpers, another interesting area we're working on right now. So the bumpers on our boats serve a variety of functions and purposes, and the Tumblehome Bumper, named because it's mounted right here on the Tumblehome, is the bumper that takes probably the highest amount of abuse. It's the one that gets slammed up against a dock or anything else that they might run up against in a high wind or running tide, if the fender balls slide around or whatever. So we make it out of really tough lumber. In this case, we build it out of teak, and then it gets glassed very heavily. The reason we use teak instead of other strong lumbers is because teak has a real high decay resistance, and if it should get damaged somewhere along the line, maybe even in another part of the world, and it take a while before it gets home to get patched, the teak can live longer under those kind of adverse conditions without decaying. So let's take a look at hole 64 now. So I'm here in the lazarette of hole 64, and I'm looking at what I call the oil refinery. It has nothing to do with oil, it just has a lot of pipes. We have a drain that comes from the mezzanine that drains into the cockpit drain, which is back here, and that all flows this way. We have a generator exhaust that runs under that and dives into a chamber here. Those will be isolated. We have an engine idle exhaust bypass, but that goes into another chamber. Those chambers all seal off from each other. And then we have yet another drain, which is our auxiliary overflow bypass for water that runs right out the transom below the water line. There are actually over 36 parts per side to make all of this work. And then each of these chambers has to be pressure tested both together and individually to make sure everything is just right before it's all said and done. So it's very complicated, but when all the pieces are together and everything's done, it's really cool. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Carolina Flare Insider. We'll see you next time.